Think the horror genre has already revealed all its secrets? It hasn't, not even close. Beneath the familiar titles and widely discussed classics lies a collection of films shaped by a level of secrecy so intense that even their own actors never knew how the story would end. These aren't the mainstream hits you've seen dissected 1,000 times. These are the films forged from confusion instinct and raw emotional exposure productions, where fear wasn't rehearsed but lived. Some of these movies slipped quietly through the decades, half remembered by those who stumbled upon them. Others gained cult status only because viewers sensed something disturbingly authentic in the performances. And they were right. When you remove the safety of knowing what comes next, the human mind reacts in unpredictable ways. That trembling breath, that delayed response, that expression of disbelief, those weren't scripted. They were the actors grappling with scenes they didn't understand, moments they weren't prepared for, and endings they never saw coming. Tonight's countdown dives into 15 such films, stories shaped by withheld scripts, fragmented pages, and directors who believed that truth emerges only when certainty is taken away. These productions turned secrecy into an artistic weapon, creating atmospheres so tense you can feel them pressing against the edges of every frame. If you thought you understood how horror is crafted, these films will challenge that belief. Let's enter the darkness and uncover the stories built on silence, misdirection, and genuine fear. Fact 1. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Rosemary's Baby thrives on paranoia, and director Roman Polanski ensured that the cast, especially Mia Farrow, felt that paranoia themselves. Farrow received an intentionally incomplete script. The pages detailing the cult's intentions and the final revelation were withheld, forcing her into the same state of anxious suspicion that defines Rosemary's journey. Interactions with the neighbors were orchestrated with minimal rehearsal. Polanski encouraged actors playing the coven members to shift tone unexpectedly, deliver lines with strange warmth, or invade Rosemary's space at unplanned moments. Farrow's subtle recoil, her wary glances, and the tremble under her breath were genuine responses to an environment that constantly violated her expectations. The final revelation, the moment that gives the film its enduring place in horror history, was concealed until shooting. Farrow walked into the climactic scene with only vague hints of its emotional direction. When she saw the final tableau, her stunned stillness and whispered disbelief emerged from true shock. Polanski captured the moment in a single take, preserving the authenticity of her reaction. Rosemary's Baby continues to unsettle because its terror is rooted in the performer's real confusion. The film's dread radiates from the instinctive responses of actors who were denied the comfort of knowing the truth until the very end. Fact 2. The Shining, 1980. The Shining's unsettling brilliance is rooted as much in its narrative as in the environment Stanley Kubrick built around his cast. Shelley Duvall and several supporting actors received unstable versions of the script pages, rewritten overnight, emotional beats reframed without warning, and entire narrative motivations left unexplained. Kubrick weaponized uncertainty, believing actors should feel the same disorientation as their characters. The Overlook Hotel itself became an accomplice in this method. Set pieces were moved between takes, lighting shifted subtly, and sound cues barely noticeable at first were introduced to fray the actor's sense of grounding. Duvall's exhausted trembling, her strained voice, and her unsteady movements weren't theatrical choices. They were the physical manifestations of someone pushed deeper into an emotional labyrinth crafted by Kubrick's relentless direction. Crucially, the ending was shrouded in secrecy. Nicholson, Duvall, and the rest of the cast were given conflicting interpretations of the climax. Some were told it was symbolic, others that it was literal, and a few were left entirely without explanation. As a result, performances in the final stretch pulse with genuine uncertainty expressions that reflect characters reaching breaking points without knowing what lies on the other side. The Shining endures because its psychological terror is rooted in authenticity. Its cast wasn't just acting confusion. They were living inside it. Fact 3. The Wicker Man, 1973. The Wicker Man cultivated unease long before audiences ever saw the film. Edward Woodward, embodying Sergeant Howie, was given only scattered pages of the script, never the complete narrative arc. Key scenes were withheld, certain character motives were deliberately obscured, and the final ritual was treated like a secret none of the cast could access. This intentional information void shaped Woodward's performance, echoing his character's growing distrust of the island's residents. The production used misdirection as a tool. Props were swapped at the last moment, lines rewritten minutes before filming, and blocking altered unpredictably. Woodward entered scenes expecting straightforward exchanges, only to be confronted with unsettling behavior from extras who had been privately instructed to push the atmosphere into stranger territory. His discomfort, the slight falter in his voice, the narrowed gaze, the stiffened posture came from navigating a social environment he genuinely did not understand. The final reveal, legendary for its shock value, was kept hidden until the moment Woodward stepped onto the location. When he rounded the corner and saw the towering structure that defined the film's climax, cameras rolled immediately. His stunned expression, the growing realization of what the scene implied, and the raw edge in his voice were not rehearsed emotions. They were the natural reactions of an actor encountering the truth of the story for the first time. The Wicker Man resonates decades later because its performers were immersed in a world that withheld the answers. Their confusion, fear, and disbelief became inseparable from the film's eerie power. Fact 4. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Few films relied more heavily on secrecy than the Blair Witch Project. The actors were given only loose story outlines and emotional prompts, never a full script. Each day brought unannounced disruptions, strange formations left in the forest, distant noises in the darkness, and food supplies diminished without explanation. Fatigue, frustration, and fear accumulated naturally. One of the most jarring moments occurred when the filmmakers shook the actors' tent in the dead of night. The performers had been assured that no such disturbance would happen during that shoot. Their scramble into the woods, breathless, panic, disoriented, was real. The cameras captured genuine terror, not choreographed chaos. For the finale, only one actor was informed of his role in the basement sequence. The others entered the collapsing house unaware of the final image they were about to encounter. Heather Donahue's whispered panic and trembling voice came from true confusion, shaped by an ending she did not see coming. The Blair Witch Project's legacy rests on this authenticity. The fear was unscripted, the emotional unraveling unfeigned, and the result remains one of the most convincing portrayals of real-time terror ever captured on film. Fact 5. Session 9, 2001. Session 9's psychological terror took root in the abandoned corridors of Danvers State Hospital and in the cast's incomplete understanding of the film's trajectory. Brad Anderson provided only selective script fragments, withholding the story's crucial turns and the true meaning of the audio tapes that haunt the narrative. Performers often entered scenes knowing just enough to proceed, but not enough to anticipate emotional beats. The recording booth moments crystallized this technique. Anderson instructed the sound crew to trigger unexpected audio distortions without warning the actors. Their startled flinches, pauses, and confused expressions were authentic reactions captured in the moment. These unplanned responses heightened the film's suffocating paranoia, grounding its terror in real psychological pressure. Multiple endings were filmed, and none of the cast knew which would define the story's meaning. Their uncertainty infuses the third act, with a trembling instability mirroring the characters' unraveling mental states. Session 9 remains chilling precisely because its fear is drawn from genuine human reactions to the unknown. Fact 6. The Changeling, 1980. The Changeling crafted its dread not just from its ghostly narrative, but from the deliberate disorientation imposed on its cast. George C. Scott was given only partial insight into the story's final revelation, a choice designed to preserve his character's emotional vulnerability. The script arrived in fragmented sections, leaving Scott without a clear picture of what his character would eventually confront. During the seance sequence, now considered one of the film's most unnerving moments, the production team altered sound cues, temperature shifts, and lighting without informing Scott beforehand. His trembling voice, tense posture, and startled glances were not rehearsed reactions. They were the instinctual responses of someone attempting to anchor himself in a scene that suddenly spiraled into the unknown. The final act was concealed to such a degree that Scott had no idea how the haunting's truth would manifest. When the climactic reveal unfolded during filming, his visible shock became a defining emotional beat. Rather than rely on manufactured fear, the Changeling captured genuine disorientation, translating the actor's uncertainty into the film's cold, oppressive atmosphere. Fact 7. Possession, 1981. Possession is remembered for its unrestrained emotional intensity, but much of that came from the cast's incomplete grasp of the story. Director Andrzej Zulawski believed the film's emotional violence required performances free from intellectual preparation. As a result, the cast received scripts with major psychological and supernatural elements obscured. Scenes were explained only moments before filming, and sometimes not at all. Isabella Gianni's iconic subway scene exemplifies this approach. Zulawski refused to rehearse it instead, instructing her to let something inside break open. She wasn't told how the moment fit into the larger narrative, leaving her to respond instinctively. The resulting performance, physical, raw, and chaotic, has become one of the most haunting sequences in horror history. The director also filmed several alternate endings and never clarified which one was the real resolution. This uncertainty created performances that felt fractured and volatile, mirroring the character's spiraling mental states. Sam Neill later admitted that he often felt destabilized, unsure what version of his character, Zulawski, would ultimately use. Possession remains unforgettable, because the turmoil on screen is not crafted solely through form. It's the residue of actors grappling with a story that refused to reveal itself. Zulawski's commitment to secrecy gave birth to a film where emotional truth emerges from confusion, fear, and relentless instability. Fact 8. The Beyond, 1981. The Beyond stands as one of Lucio Fulci's most surreal works, an experience where narrative logic dissolves and dread is felt rather than explained. Fulci embraced this chaos during production by distributing only partial scripts. Actors often arrived on set unsure of whether they were filming a dream, a hallucination, or an intrusion from another realm. Their bewilderment was intentional. A particularly haunting moment came during a flooded basement sequence. The lead actress expected a simple reveal involving shadowy movement. Instead, Fulci's effects team unveiled a grotesquely detailed corpse prop, writhing with insects and slick with viscous liquid. The horror that flashed across her face was unfiltered. Fulci captured that first take and refused any retakes, insisting that no rehearsed expression could match it. The ending was denied to every actor. Fulci told each performer a different version of how the story concluded, creating conflicting emotional interpretations. On set, this produced subtle inconsistencies, uncertain line deliveries, shifting tones, hesitant physicality. Rather than correct these, Fulci embraced them, believing they mirrored the world collapsing into irrationality. The Beyond endures because its terror is rooted in genuine disorientation. Viewers feel what the actors felt, an atmosphere where nothing stays fixed, and every revelation feels like stepping deeper into an unknowable nightmare. Fact 9. Phantasm, 1979. Phantasm has long been praised for its dreamlike, disorienting structure, but the sense of confusion began long before cameras rolled. Director Don Coscarelli intentionally concealed major plot developments from the cast, revising the script daily and circulating pages that contradicted one another. The actors never knew which moments were real within the story's shifting logic. That murkiness seeped directly into their performances. One of the film's most unsettling moments occurred during a corridor scene. The cast believed they were completing a straightforward transitional shot until Angus Scrimm suddenly appeared from the darkness without warning. His towering presence and abrupt movement sent the actors off balance, producing startled reactions that became key to the film's lingering dread. The unease in their faces was not acting, it was instinct. Coscarelli further complicated things by filming multiple potential endings without revealing which one reflected the true story. The cast was left speculating about the film's meaning, mirroring the disorientation the characters themselves experience. When the final cut was assembled, the actors discovered new layers of interpretation they had never considered during filming. Phantasm remains a cult classic precisely because the confusion embedded in the performances is real. The actors were navigating a narrative that shifted beneath their feet, and the film captured the unsettling tension that comes from trying to grasp meaning in a world designed to defy clarity. Fact 10. The Legend of Hell House, 1973. The Legend of Hell House became a study in controlled chaos. The director believed that the most convincing hauntings occur when the performers themselves struggle to interpret what's happening around them. To achieve this, he concealed the story's resolution and quietly altered set elements between takes, shifts in lighting, moved furniture doors that clicked shut when they had been open minutes before. The seance scene became the centerpiece of this strategy. The actors were told only that the table would respond without knowing how violently. When hidden mechanical rigs jolted it upward, the shock in their expressions was genuine. Their unease, layered with the house's oppressive atmosphere, gave the entire sequence a tension that audiences still remark on decades later. The film's final revelation remained withheld from almost everyone, ensuring no performer fully understood the force behind the haunting. Their fractured interpretations, each actor believing in a different version of the truth, created performances filled with quiet doubt and subtle fear. The legend of Hell House succeeds not just because of its narrative, but because its cast inhabited a story that shifted beneath them, mirroring the very instability their characters faced. Fact 11. Shadow of the Hawk, 1976. Shadow of the Hawk relied heavily on keeping its performers unsteady. Most actors received scripts with entire sections blacked out, along with cryptic notes meant to mimic the mysticism their characters were meant to confront. Scenes involving the forest were shot with minimal context, allowing the woods themselves to become a source of genuine unease. During one night sequence, the cast was instructed to walk toward a ritual site as if something hidden is watching you. They weren't told that the crew had arranged sudden bursts of flame, unexpected animal calls, and shadowed figures to cross their path. The startled reactions that followed, a dropped lantern, a scream not found in any draft of the script, a moment of stunned silence, were the very responses the director wanted. They lent the film an authenticity that no rehearsal could reproduce. The ending was withheld from every actor except the lead. Several climax scenes were filmed with conflicting implications, leaving supporting performers convinced they were making a completely different movie. Their confusion, layered onto the film's supernatural themes, helped create a reality where nothing felt anchored. Shadow of the Hawk endures as a testament to how uncertainty carefully engineered can deepen cinematic fear. Fact 12. Blood Beach, 1980. Blood Beach was built on a foundation of manufactured uncertainty. Instead of providing a complete script, the director handed the cast loose fragments enough to follow the premise, but not enough to understand how events truly connected. The actors had no clear sense of what was hunting people beneath the sand, or how the narrative would converge in its final act. Their confusion became part of the film's unsettling texture. One moment that revealed the production's unusual methods involved a search scene along the shoreline. The lead actor thought he was tracking a minor disturbance for a simple setup shot. Without warning, the sand collapsed beneath him, triggered by hidden pneumatic rigs the crew had not disclosed. His reaction, wide-eyed shock, frantic scrambling, a gasp that barely made it to the microphone, was entirely real. The take was used exactly as it was filmed. The conclusion of Blood Beach remained the most tightly guarded piece of the story. Multiple possible outcomes were shot, leaving the cast unsure which one represented the truth. When the actors finally watched the completed film, they discovered the final creature reveal and thematic twist at the same moment as the audience. Blood Beach remains memorable because the fear embedded within it was not invented. It was captured from performers who were denied the comfort of knowing what waited beneath their feet. Fact 13. The Kindred, 1987. The Kindred built its horror not merely through creature effects, but through calculated narrative withholding. From the first day on set, actors were told that certain elements of the story, including the final reveal, would remain hidden from them. The script pages they received were redacted, scene descriptions were intentionally vague, and whole sequences were labeled to be determined. The effect was immediate. The performers never fully understood the nature of the monstrosity their characters were confronting. During a laboratory sequence, the cast encountered one of the animatronic creatures for the first time. They expected a simple prop demonstration. Instead, the effects team unveiled a writhing, pulsating creation, complete with unexpected movement and sound. Their recoils, tense breathing, and instinctive retreats were preserved exactly as they happened. The director refused a second take, believing the authenticity of their fear could never be recreated. The ending was filmed in several variations, each presenting different implications for the creature's origins. None of the actors knew which one was canon. When they finally saw the completed film, several were stunned at how different it was from what they believed they were shooting. That confusion, half frustration, half awe, still lives in the finished product. The Kindred's unsettling tone emerges not only from its story, but from the real disorientation its cast experienced every time the cameras rolled. Fact 14. Jennifer, 1978. Jennifer looks at first glance like another tale of an outsider driven to the edge, but the truth behind its production reveals something far stranger. The cast was handed incomplete scripts, each containing only vague hints about Jennifer's growing abilities. No one besides the lead actress was told how her transformation would unfold, and even she was kept in the dark about the nature of several key scenes. The director wanted the emotional instability on screen to be born out of real uncertainty, not careful rehearsal. A classroom confrontation became the clearest example of this method. The supporting cast believed they were filming a routine exchange. The actress playing Jennifer, however, had been privately instructed to unleash a sudden, startling reaction. As the lights flickered and objects shifted around them, the confusion written across the other actors' faces was genuine. Their stammering, their instinctive steps backward, their split-second shock, none of it was scripted. It was the product of a moment they could not anticipate. The film's conclusion was treated like a classified secret. Multiple versions were filmed, with no one certain which ending represented the real story. The lead actress later admitted that the uncertainty affected her, deeply fueling an unease that seeped into her expressions and line delivery. Jennifer endures not because of its plot alone, but because its performances carry the raw edge of people reacting to a narrative they were never allowed to fully grasp. Fact 15. Dark August, 1976. Dark August was crafted inside an atmosphere of deliberate mystery. The director believed that fear blossoms most authentically when the performer doesn't understand the full shape of the danger ahead. For that reason, the cast received only scattered pieces of the script, cryptic references to curses, rituals, and unseen forces lurking in the woods. The actors moved from scene to scene, relying not on preparation, but on instinct mirroring the disorientation of their characters. One of the film's most unnerving sequences involved a solitary walk through a twilight forest. The lead actor expected a quiet moment of wandering, yet hidden crew members manipulated branches, shadows, and distant noises without warning. His hesitations, sharp breaths, and cautious glances weren't rehearsed responses. They were genuine reactions to an environment shifting beyond his control. The unease captured on camera came directly from his uncertainty about what might emerge from the trees. The ending remained sealed from nearly everyone. Only 2 crew members knew the true final image, while the cast filmed scenes without any understanding of where the story was heading. When they finally watched the completed film, they realized their confusion had been essential to its oppressive tone. Dark August endures because the fear embedded in its frames is not manufactured. It's the product of performers stumbling through a narrative that deliberately concealed itself from them. Bonus pick, Don't Look Now, 1973. Before closing this journey into sealed script horrors, one final film stands apart for the extraordinary secrecy woven into its production. Don't Look Now is often remembered for its dreamlike editing and suffocating grief, but the way its cast was kept in the dark defined the film just as strongly. Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland were given versions of the script with key scenes missing, especially those surrounding the film's final revelation. Director Nicholas Roeg believed that authenticity could only surface when actors were forced to confront the unknown rather than rehearse it. Throughout the shoot, Roeg shifted the sequence of scenes and altered emotional cues without forewarning. On some days, Christie stepped into moments she thought were transitional only to find herself in a confrontation of intense emotional weight. The unpredictability shaped her performance. Her confusion and hesitation were not character choices, but survival responses to a narrative she never fully understood. The film's most iconic moment, the figure in the red coat, was executed with near mythic secrecy. Sutherland expected a symbolic or ambiguous encounter, something grounded in psychological interpretation. Instead, Roeg staged an abrupt, visceral appearance, filming his reaction the very moment he turned toward it. His instinctive recoil, the frozen shock across his expression, and the quiet collapse of certainty behind his eyes were captured exactly as they happened. Don't Look Now lingers in the memory because its emotional truth was not constructed, it was extracted. The cast navigated a story that withheld its heart until the final breath, allowing their genuine confusion to bleed into the frame. In this final entry, it becomes clear when actors are denied the ending, fear becomes something real and unforgettable. If these stories born from secrecy have drawn you deeper into the genre's hidden corners, there is far more waiting in the shadows. Horror often reveals its sharpest edges when the truth is withheld, and these films are proof of how powerful the unknown can be. Which of these concealed endings lingered with you the longest? Share your thoughts and step with us into the darkness again soon.